Everyone who's concerned about peace and freedom has to be greatly distressed by the arrest in the Netherlands of Joma Sison. He's been there for 2 decades. And while it's true, it's been tense for him because the government has left him uncertain as to what they will do. They have refused to extradite him to the Philippines because they know how he'd be treated if he was sent there. But now they're suddenly charging him, or at least they're considering charging him, with the most serious crime we know, and that's involvement, complicity somehow or other, in murders that happened in the Philippines in 2002, 2004, something like that. It's absolutely absurd, as he said in a book he wrote 5 years ago, that anyone could think he would be implicated in something like that, or could be implicated in it halfway around the world. The original complaints were made by the widows, and what knowledge would they have? The man is a gentle person. He's more a philosopher than a professor even, and certainly more a professor than a politician. He is an inspiring leader. How many have had the vision and the ability when he was there to bring together in a single union both Christian and Muslim fundamentalists to struggle for the common freedom of the people of the Philippines? Yet he could do it. I wish we had somebody like that here in the United States or in Iraq, where we constantly demonize and attack Muslims. The Dutch can't determine the facts. I watched their police try to determine the facts in Rwanda, and they were absolutely lost. All they could do is do what the government told them there. They didn't speak Kinyarwanda. They didn't know the people. They couldn't talk to the people. The people wouldn't talk to them. It's dangerous. So when the reports came in to the court, they had no real reliability. These were just investigative reports, but the Netherlands has been sending groups and investigators apparently to the Philippines, but they can't investigate in the Philippines. They can only rely upon what the Philippine government tells them. And what it wants is persecution. It wants to destroy opposition. The Philippines is perhaps the most heartbreaking case of American imperialism. I mean, 800,000 were killed in this, what we call the Spanish-American War. We don't talk about a Philippine-American War, but it was bloody. I mean, stories about a general telling a colonel to kill every man on Negros Island. And the colonel asked him under what age, and he said 13. And there were trenches full of the bodies of Philippine people. How is it that all these years after the heroic struggle of the Philippine people to liberate themselves after the Japanese invasion, that Japan, which lost World War II, but the poor Philippines, which is an American colony, doesn't have a tenth the per capita income of the Japanese? The largest source of income for the Philippine people is checks being sent home from Philippine people who've gone overseas to support their families in the Philippines. That is a heartbreaking way to live your life. Look at the way so many nurses, there are no better nurses in the world than Philippine peoples, and they nurse all over the world. But I'll tell you, when they went to Kuwait and places like that, they were treated like slaves, literally. Tormented, tortured, underpaid or not paid. This is the fate of the Philippines under the United States government, which pretty much continues to this day. I mean, Marcos was our man. He was a brutal dictator. Ramos was a general. I mean, they had 300 or 400 graduates from the U.S. Military Academy and the Army there. What kind of independent army do you think that is? I hope the Netherlands will stand up, see that it's wrong, and not only release Joma Sison right now, but say that the whole proceedings against him have been a mistake, and grant him asylum, and hope other countries will welcome him if he chooses to travel among them. He's a great spirit that the world needs to know about. He's a great voice that the world needs to hear. Demonization will destroy us if we permit it to continue. Imagine the United States not letting him come here to visit his dying mother in California. He pleaded, just let me come see my mother. No. What kind of humanity is that? In the Netherlands, keep him on such a short leash, tying up his assets. They were having a real hard, last time I saw him, it's been over 2 years now, a real hard time just putting food on the table. So if we want peace on earth, we've got to do better. And I would hope the Netherlands would begin right now with releasing this great man, Joma Sison, and saying we've made a mistake and we realize it and we're sorry. The new Human Security Act in the Philippines is a copy of the U.S. Patriot Act, which is probably the most unpatriotic act the United States Congress has passed in my lifetime in the law, which goes for back 60 years now. It rejects every principle of freedom on which this country proclaims it is based. Sadly, the Philippines have been subjected to too much copying of the worst aspects of what the United States does, and that law ought to be rejected. One of the happier days of my life were the days that it became clear that finally the U.S. was going to close Subic Naval Base and Clark Airfield. I thought free at last, perhaps, for the Philippines, which has so long been a heartache for those who love the people there and care about freedom. And now we see that the U.S. prefers its military bases at points more remote from major populations of the Philippine people, like Manila, where they can't be interfered with. So they want the Philippine people to wage war against themselves in Mindanao so they can have major international bases there, involving the Philippine people, the Philippine government, in not only suppressing its own people, but in helping the United States with its wars of aggression, even on Iraq or Afghanistan, because that major base will cover not only Southeast Asia, but far beyond that. It's awfully important that the people of the Philippines stand up on these issues. And as hard as it may seem to do when your needs are so great, every penny you accept in U.S. aid from the United States will be repaid in Philippine blood. United States aid is buying power through surrogate governments. You're not free if you depend upon U.S. aid. You'll pay a heavy, heavy price for it. I urge you to reject U.S. aid, and I urge you to insist that the Philippines be free of all U.S. military presence, and especially major new bases in Mindanao or any of the other beautiful islands of the Philippines.